Today's episode was inspired by an interview I recently did for BACP's website and the British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy. They were exploring some of the NHS's recent findings around mental health to coincide with the launch of their 10-year plan. And 1 in 4 people have reported feeling suicidal at some point over their lifetime. Unfortunately, from my experience and from my lived experience and my professional experience, this feels like underreporting. Hi, I'm Eve Menezes Cunningham, and you're listening to episode 68 of the Feel Better Everyday podcast. Every Tuesday, I share trauma-informed and ADHD-friendly self-care ideas to help you take better care of yourself, and yourself with that uppercase S, that highest, wisest, truest, wildest, most joyful, brilliant, and miraculous part of yourself, to help you create a life you don't need to retreat from. You can find out more at the feelbettereverydaypodcast.com. And you can get deeper dives by joining the Soul to Soul Circle, as well as bonus interviews, practices, rituals, and access to a rich archive, including the entire Love Your Whole Self chakra journey. You can also access resources via the book, 365 Ways to Feel Better, Self-Care Ideas, and all the book bonus videos, whether you have the book or not, and lots of other resources at selfcarecoaching.net. Today's episode was inspired by an interview I recently did for BACP's website and the British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy. They were exploring some of the NHS's recent findings around mental health to coincide with the launch of their 10-year plan. And 1 in 4 people have reported feeling suicidal at some point over their lifetime. Unfortunately, from my experience and from my lived experience and my professional experience, this feels like underreporting. And there's so much going on in the world that has so many people stretched so thin, not to mention, I don't want to list all the things that might make you feel worse, feel better every day. But unfortunately, way too many people do feel suicidal and have felt suicidal. And myself, I used to feel suicidal a lot throughout my childhood and teens and into my 20s. But because I tried when I was 14 and thankfully I didn't succeed, I'm always grateful for that, because long before I learned how to teach mindfulness, it gave me that visceral experience of being grateful that my actions hadn't been irreversible. And now, with what I understand about trauma recovery and ADHD and impulsivity, who would have thought it would take till nearly 50 to find out I was impulsive? But thinking, it used to really scare me growing up how it could feel so desperate and like it was the only way out. And I was so lucky in many, many ways. I had a good life in many, many ways, but that was a default well-worn neural pathway loop that I would regularly go down. And it terrified me that something done so quickly could be it forever. Um, I don't know what the answer is, because there aren't enough resources for the people who, I was going to say, have the courage to seek support. Everyone has courage. It's not just about seeking support. It can be heartbreaking to hear about people who have gone to their GPs and been turned away. It takes so much to reach out. I always feel terrible when I can't help someone who is reaching out wanting me to work with them one-to-one, because I'm in private practice. I can't work with everyone who gets in touch with me. And I really wish that in Ireland and in the UK we had better safety nets in place, better supports to refer people onto. But at the same time, I think that there is awareness. I think what they're saying they plan to do in terms of additional resources it's moving hopefully in the right direction. But thinking like there's never really any exploration of systemic causes, and how people feel about, for example, the climate catastrophe, about what's going on in the world, and how that can exacerbate feelings of helplessness and hopelessness. And I guess for the feel element of the feel, love, heal, it's too easy to say, talk to someone, reach out, let someone know you're suffering, because when you're suffering like that, that's the last thing you want to do. It can feel utterly impossible to voice it. It can feel melodramatic. It can feel not enough. It can feel terrifying in like fear of rejection. There are all sorts of things that can get in the way, and there aren't enough supports in place. There is in Ireland, there's Pieta House you can reach out to. There are the Samaritans in most places. But people need to know that they are worthy. People need to know that however you're feeling, you deserve help. And unfortunately, when we're feeling like that, we don't believe that we deserve help. We feel like we're too much. We feel like we're too much trouble and there's no point and it's never going to change. So, for the feel element of the feel, love, heal framework today, this is nowhere near enough, but I would firstly advise you to reach out, co-regulate, talk to a human who you trust. And if you have someone you know in real life, wonderful, and really know that they would much rather hear from you and be able to help you than to find out later that you were struggling and couldn't, for whatever reason, reach out to them. And if you don't have someone you know, use one of the organisations or find a therapist. I mean, I'm so aware so many people can help you, but if the first person you try or the first few people you try can't take you on, that doesn't mean that no one can. You deserve all the care and support available. You deserve way more than what's available. So, number one, reach out, talk to your GP, go to A&E, use one of the helplines. Know that you are worthy. Know that you deserve not just to live, but you deserve a joy-filled life, a life filled with purpose and meaning and all good things. This might sound ridiculous, but if you are struggling to reach out to someone, you can use your body and your breath to give you even the tiniest of boosts. I'm not saying that a yoga pose is going to save your life, but it can be a way to get out of those ruminating suicidal thoughts. Coming into a pose like Sphinx or Warrior Two or Triangle or something that's open, bridge, little bridge pose, wheel, anything that's open-hearted, anything that's expansive, it's going to help lift your mood using the vagus nerve. So 80% of the signals go up from the body to the brain and then cascade down. So you've heard me talk many, many times about calming the nervous system. In this case, we're talking about lifting it, but in an empowering way. So there are videos that you can access through selfcarecoaching.net/book if you'd like to explore some of those heart opening, expansive poses that might help you feel better. But even if you're able to just move in a slightly different way, I know this sounds like I feel suicidal and you're suggesting yoga. It might sound obnoxious, it might sound offensive, and we really can change our physiology by, we can change our lives by moving differently. Um, Give it a try, but most importantly, we move into the love element and the acceptance element. And it's not about accepting that you're never going to feel better. It's not about accepting terrible things. It's about accepting that right now you're feeling really low, or perhaps a loved one is feeling really low, and it's really hard to deal with. And just working with the love archetype in psychosynthesis terms. So that real nourishing, supportive acceptance, that not trying to change anything, that just allowing yourself to sit with your feelings, allowing yourself to not be rushing to regulate if it's bearable enough, or if someone is talking to you, make sure that you're able to be a container for them and let them talk rather than trying to interrupt and tell them it's all going to be okay when they don't believe it's going to be okay. Connect with that love archetype and know that while life can be incredibly painful, it can also be incredibly joyful. And the more we work with the full emotional landscape, yes, there'll be terrible times, but also so many amazing times. But it might feel like a bit of a fairy tale to ever imagine feeling like you will feel worthy and lovable and deserving of the supports you need, even if they feel too big. Um, know that help is out there. Know that better days are ahead for you. And just notice how you feel when you stop fighting how you're feeling and definitely not acting on it, but just accept the fact, just for a moment, that you feel so bad, you are having thoughts that could end your life, and how painful that is. And ask yourself, like, what would a person who loved themselves do, or what would a person who didn't hate themselves do? And begin to act in those ways. But if you're lucky enough to have people around you, but even if you are lucky enough, I mean, some people don't have support systems, some people do have support systems, and it can still feel like they're a million miles away, even if they're in the same house. So it's really giving yourself as much grace and as much love and as much support and acceptance as possible. And that will help the feelings to dissolve, to shift. You'll begin to recognize your resources and that things are temporary, everything is temporary. And we move into the heal element. And I know for me, this was probably what helped me the most when I was much younger. It was my potentially grandiose hopes of what I could potentially do to help make the world a better place if I could get through not wanting to be alive so much of the time. And I want you to think for yourself, what kind of world would make your heart sing? When you look around, when you watch the news, when you feel your heart sink the whole time, when it feels like despair, when it feels like just so depressing and so overwhelming, let yourself imagine improvements. Let yourself imagine utopias. Let yourself imagine things going well, things healing. And oddly, I've been back and forth to the hospital every day the past several days, a loved one's in hospital. And it's really kind of reminded me of what I tell people the whole time. Like, we see on the news all the really depressing horror stories, but most people are really caring. Most people are insanely generous and kind, and in spite of their suffering, in spite of their struggles, they'll hold doors open for people. Or, like, there's so much kindness and so much grace around. If you were to imagine a future version of yourself, healed and whole and contributing not only to an amazing life for yourself, but for loved ones, for your communities, for your organizations, for the world at large, what energizes you? Not in a, oh, it's all hopeless sort of way, but in a beginning to create a bit of a spark in terms of you would like to really be part of that solution. And the last thing I want to do is overwhelm you. You're having suicidal thoughts, and now I'm saying, save the world, help save the world. But let yourself be moved by what's naturally and organically happening for you, rather than trying to not watch the news or trying to deny things that are upsetting you. Open your heart to it in a grounded and protected way, and think about the kind of solutions that would make your heart sing, singing for joy. Like, let yourself dream a life for yourself and for your communities and for the world that empowers you and that potentially keeps you going through tough times. In the circle, we're going to be exploring some of the ways in which we can support other people, and also like just exploring a bit more. It's one of those, I mean, it's something I ask every new client if they've ever thought about suicide. And it's something like these findings show way more people than you might have thought about it, have seriously considered it. So in the circle, we're going to be talking about that some more. You can join at evanc.substack.com, and you can find lots of resources at selfcarecoaching.net. To ground this episode, I'd love if you can take a few moments to grab your journal or just a pen and paper. You can use loo roll and biro and flush it down the loo safely if you don't want anyone reading it, or burn it safely. But let yourself connect. If you have the bandwidth now, if you have the headspace now, if you have if it's practical for you today, you don't want to go really deep and then have to function joyfully and not be there. But when you get a chance, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, maybe right now, let yourself connect with some of your heaviest times, some of the times where you felt most hopeless and helpless and overwhelmed, and just send some love back to yourself, younger you. And if there are people in your life who you're worried about now, just spend a bit of time sending them love energetically. You can use one of the metta meditations. You can search my website, there are plenty there, or you can Google, there are many by other people as well. But give yourself a moment or a few minutes to recognize that so many people are suffering, and it actually doesn't take much to help create a ripple effect that could potentially save a life. I was talking to someone recently about, there was a film, it was like marketed as a rom-com, where a woman saved a man's life. I think it was a bridge in Dublin he was going to jump off, and she forced him to stay with her until he felt better. Like she was basically appointing herself to keep him alive. And it was like, oh my God, it's if someone is determined, there's nothing anyone can do. And the idea of having that kind of responsibility and that guilt. And I always think of Jamie Raskin, the American politician who led the second impeachment of Donald Trump. And his son had sadly died by suicide on New Year's Eve, 6 days before the insurrection. And Jamie Raskin wrote this beautiful book, Unthinkable, honouring his son's amazing sounding life and ongoing struggles with mental health, and also talking about what was happening with the country that he loved. And of course, things have got so much worse there since he wrote it. But I'm a barrel of laughs, aren't I? I'm a ray of sunshine. But it's a beautiful meditation on a loved one's experience of his son's suicide and more. Think about what would help you most in this moment, and think about who you would like to talk to and how you would like to talk to them. And even if you're not able to actually do it, give yourself permission to imagine it. Let me know how you're doing. You can email me, you can comment on any of my platforms, wherever you're seeing this. And thank you for listening. I look forward to sharing more next week. And this episode, like all episodes so far, was produced by me, your host, Eve Menezes-Cunningham. Look after yourself, know that you're not alone, and whatever it is you're struggling with, you are so much more than that, and you will get through this. You can get through this. Thank you for listening to the Feel Better Everyday podcast. If you'd like more, you can join the Soul to Soul Circle in order to access a rich archive of exclusive content, including deeper dives into every episode, and also the entire Love Your Whole Self chakra journey. And you might also enjoy the book 365 Ways to Feel Better, Self-Care Ideas for Embodied Wellbeing. You can get more information, you can access loads of many libraries of free resources and much more at selfcarecoaching.net. And you can also connect with me and let me know how you're getting on. So have a gorgeous week, and I look forward to sharing more soon.